I'm Josh Green.
And I'm Mark Halperin. With all due respect to President Obama, we may not agree on everything, but we definitely agree on where to get the best burgers.
I want to give a shout out to Five Guys.
On the show tonight, the Trump meeting, the financial disclosures, and the Cosby Show. But first, the president's press conference on Iran. Mr. Obama took questions in the East Room of the White House this afternoon and was so disappointed the press corps didn't ask all the Iran questions he was prepared for that at one point he asked himself some questions. A big POTUS focus, hyper-awareness of what critics of the deal are saying.
I'm hearing a lot of talking points being repeated about this is a bad deal. This is a historically bad deal. For all the objections of Prime Minister Netanyahu, I think the suggestion among a lot of the critics, you'll hear some critics say, I challenge those who are objecting to this agreement. And if the alternative is that we should bring Iran to heel through military force, then those critics should say so.
So he engaged not just with the reporters' questions, but with the criticisms he knows are out there. Did he help himself today in making the case to the public and to the Congress?
He did, Mark, because what he did today was get out ahead and define the terms of the debate that is going to roil Washington and probably the country over the next 60 days as Congress fights out whether or not they're going to support this deal and whether or not Republicans and opponents of the deal can get enough support to override a presidential veto.
The best thing for him is to not have both chambers vote on a resolution of disapproval, or if they do, that those resolutions fail. I think the White House thinks that there's not that great a chance for that, but it's a possibility. And it's clear this guy is so engaged. He knows all the criticism, and he knows that the individual criticisms can be trumped by the main thing he said today, historic deal that is better than any alternative.
One other important thing, he raised the ante. He said critics have to come through with a viable alternative. That puts Republicans, opponents on the defensive. It's going to be harder to make the case after that press conference.
And no one has a big a megaphone as he does, not just today, but over the next few weeks. The one thing he said today that I think is going to embolden the opposition is he said there are two choices, this deal or war. He didn't say sanctions were an option, either sustained or increased sanctions. And, of course, that's the main talking point of most of the critics of the deal.
Well, that was slightly misleading because there's a contingent, including of Democrats, who wanted tougher negotiations, more sanctions. By framing it the way he did, he's put the onus on his opponents to overcome that.
But he was otherwise pretty darn strong today.
Every reporter Obama called on today focused on Iran except for one. April Ryan asked the president whether Bill Cosby's Presidential Medal of Freedom should be taken away after Cosby admitted in court documents obtained by the Associated Press to drugging women. Obama said he knows of no mechanism to do that, but then he brought down the hammer.
As you know, I tend to make it a policy not to comment on the specifics of cases where there might still be, if not criminal, then civil issues involved. I'll say this. If you give a woman, or a man for that matter, without his or her knowledge, a drug, and then have sex with that person without consent, that's rape. And I think this country, any civilized country, should have no tolerance for rape.
Mark, did the president supercharge what was already a growing national debate about rape and sexual assault?
He did, and not just about that, but the related hot button of Bill Cosby himself. You know, this is the first time he's spoken publicly about it. It's clear how passionately he feels about it. And he's got two daughters. He's got a lot of influential female advisors, and the outrage he showed is going to elevate this topic. And I think for Cosby, it is a very tough moment, even though the president said not going to take away the Medal of Freedom.
For me, what was stunning about this was not specifically what he said, but the fact that he said it. And the fact that he said it with such passion, because he prefaced this by saying, well, you know, I don't usually talk about these cases.
And he doesn't.
And he doesn't. But what's been remarkable to me, you know, this began on college campuses a few years ago. We've seen it sort of catch fire. You had the Rolling Stone, the flawed Rolling Stone Virginia rape story, ratcheted up to another level. And here is President Obama hitting on the hottest hot-button issue within the rape, sexual assault sphere, and essentially making this part of the national dialogue in an even bigger way than it was already.
You know, if you'd asked him during the Boston Marathon bombing trial, how do you feel about the defendant there, he would have said, I can't comment on a pending case. Cosby hasn't even been charged, but he left no doubt in the minds of people that this is something he takes seriously in the case of Bill Cosby and in general Very strong.
And real quick, you spoke to Valerie Jarrett and got some background on what it was that.
Well, she said what the president said, which says he has zero tolerance for rape. He wanted to send that message, and he did loud and clear today in a press conference, otherwise dominated, of course, by Iran. All right, so today is the deadline for all presidential campaigns and committees to file with the FEC how much they've raised, what they've spent the money on so far. Here's some facts and figures from the latest rundown of new information. Martin O'Malley, Democrat, Mike Huckabee, Republican, both raised about $2 million for their campaign. Rick Perry, much less, $1.1 million, although he's doing better in the super PAC category. Bobby Jindal raised nearly $600,000. And Chris Christie's super PAC raised a pretty decent chunk, $11 million. We found out today from the Sanders campaign that Senator Sanders, in the $15 million he's raised, a very high percentage of it has come from donors who gave less. 2/3 of it came from donors who gave less than $200. All right, when we added up the money raised by all the campaigns and all the committees so far, that's about $376 million. There's still some to report. You find that Hillary Clinton and Jeb Bush and their supporting committees have raised almost exactly half of the money so far. That tells you about the power of dynasty and the fact that those two are in financial class by themselves. Another financial deadline today. Donald Trump filed his personal financial disclosures. He says he's worth $10 billion. That's with a B. That makes him easily the richest person ever to run for president here in the United States. Josh, with all these fundraising numbers, there's still some to come, as I said. With the Trump disclosure, what catches your eye?
What catches my eye is that he's really, really rich. And there was sort of a conspiracy theory among cynical, hard-bitten reporters like me that maybe he wasn't. This was all hot air, and when push came to shove, he wouldn't actually go and release this information because he wasn't rich. Well, we find out today he is really rich. He's so rich that he makes Mitt Romney look like a pauper. That was what jumped out at me.
Everybody talks about this being the cycle of the super PAC, and there's no doubt that super PAC money is easier to raise and that it can keep you in the game. But those hard campaign dollars matter a lot. It's still what moves the campaign around. A lot of the functions can only be performed by the campaign, and I think you're seeing that with the exception of Hillary Clinton, Bernie Sanders, Jeb Bush, a few others, raising hard dollars is really hard.
Boy, and imagine if Donald Trump decides he wants to self-fund. He could cause all sorts of problems for the Republican Party.
I keep saying that people underestimated whether he'd run, people underestimated his wealth, and he is taking great pleasure today in telling people how rich he is. Some Republicans are skeptical, and they say maybe Mr. Trump engage in some exaggeration on those forums, which would be problematic. But he clearly is the richest person ever to run for the office. All right, speaking of Mr. Trump, he had a meeting scheduled today with Senator Ted Cruz at Trump Tower. That meeting, Mr. Trump said this morning on Morning Joe, came at Cruz's request. That's one way of handling the Donald. The other is to push him aside, a la what Jeb Bush did in Iowa on Tuesday.
And on our side, there are people that prey on people's fears and their angst as well. I don't know about you, but I think it is wrong. I believe we need to unify our country. We need to stop separating ourselves by race and ethnicity and income. We need to focus on the things that tie us together. And whether it's Donald Trump or Barack Obama, their rhetoric of divisiveness is wrong.
So Jeb Bush is now distancing himself and criticizing Trump more than anybody else. Cruz is embracing him more than anyone else. Which model is better? The Cruz hug or the Jeb shrug and shove away?
There is no question that the Jeb Heisman maneuver is the best thing for the Republican Party. Trump is toxic to what Republicans need to do to put together a national coalition. If you look at poll numbers, his unfavorable numbers have risen among Latinos, the very group that the Republican Party believes it needs to make inroads with in order to win a national election.
What do you think is behind Cruz's warm embrace of Trump? We don't know what happened in a meeting. But what's behind the notion of the two of them getting together? Why does that work to Cruz's benefit?
Well, I really don't know. I think maybe Cruz suspects that Trump is going to flame out at some point. It's certainly what I suspect. And when he does, he wants to be the beneficiary. He wants Trump's endorsement, and he wants the surge of support that we've seen Trump get from Republicans over the last couple of weeks.
If you look at Perot in '92, when he was riding high, the Clinton and Bush campaign basically had the same posture, which is suck up to him. Perot invited emissaries down to Dallas to meet with him. Both campaigns sent senior officials. But they also tried to dump opposition research on him, which I suspect is going to happen soon with Mr. Trump, and also try to steal his ideas. I think Cruz has got to do at least two of those three. All right, coming up after this break, Clinton advisor Jennifer Palmieri right here. Our guest tonight is longtime confidant of Bill and Hillary Clinton, Jennifer Palmieri. Jennifer, thanks for coming back on the show.
I'm very happy to be here.
All right, so Iran is the lead story today. Yes. President Obama made it clear today, you're a former boss, another one of your former bosses, that he's going to work hard to try to convince Congress to not block the deal. Secretary Clinton spoke out about it yesterday. Does she plan to lobby Congress, to urge Congress publicly and privately to let this deal go through, to vote to support it?
She talked to Congress yesterday about it. You know, she did 6 caucuses, and the deal had just broken, and she spoke with them then, and she spoke in favor of it.
But will she keep it up over the next couple weeks?
I imagine that this is going to be, Congress has 60 days to look at it, so I think it'll continue to be in the public debate, and she's going to continue to talk about it. She thinks it's, something that she started and working in the negotiations on. She thinks it's really important. I think she will talk. I think she will continue to talk about it.
I mean, good chance she will be the next president of the United States. Will she be willing to go to Democrats who are on the fence and say, listen, if I'm in the White House, you can trust me to enforce this?
I mean, I think, well, she did talk to, she spoke yesterday about enforcement and how important that is, and as if she were elected president, the priority that she would make on enforcing it. I think, I could see an argument for mixing the presidential campaign with this congressional debate. May not be in the best interest of the legislation, but she spoke about it yesterday. I think she's going to continue to speak about it. I think it's really important that they pass, and she would do what she thought was helpful.
The other big news out of the press conference today was Bill Cosby. I wonder, will Hillary Clinton join with Senators Kirsten Gillibrand and Claire McCaskill, I believe, is the other one, in calling for the president to revoke the Medal of Honor and asking Bill Cosby to return it?
It's I don't know. We would it is I just saw the president's comments about it. It's it's really disturbing stuff, and I imagine she'll probably get asked.
Have you ever heard her comment on it?
I haven't. No, or privately either. Yeah. No.
Okay. The foundation's gotten money from Bill Cosby in the past. He's campaigned for her in the past. Do you know if the foundation would consider giving the money back?
I don't. They, but the foundation has there's been a lot of donors that have given money. They, as our friend Paul Begala said, it's wealthy people give money to help poor people. We think that's
so you don't see any reason to give
thing.
the money back, regardless of what a donor might have done.
I mean, I think that you should, like the foundation can also speak to this. Right. But this is wealthy people giving. It's a good overall point, by the way. It's like wealthy people giving money to the foundation to do good works for poor people.
I want to ask about something that happened with Scott Walker. He was asked about the Boy Scouts vote to allow gay adults to serve as troop leaders, and he told the IJ Review this week, quote, "I've had a lifelong commitment to the Scouts and support the previous membership policy because it protected children and advanced Scout values." So that caused some controversy. Walker was asked about those comments today in South Carolina, and this is what he said.
All I can point out was that the policy was perfectly fine when I was there, and I thought they should be protected from all the political and media controversy about it. There's nothing more to that. As I pointed out, the protection was not a physical protection, it was protective. Discussion about the policy protected them from being involved in the very thing you're talking about right now, political and media discussion about it, instead of just focusing on what Scouts is about.
So he seemed to be saying something different today, that what Scouts needed to be protected from was a discussion of gay leaders in Scouting. The Human Rights Campaign called what he said originally, quote, offensive, outrageous, and absolutely unacceptable, and they said he was implying that gay adults represented a threat to the safety and well-being of young people. What do you think of what Scott Walker said? Do you agree with the Human Rights Campaign?
Well, it's hard to, I guess it was sort of hard to discern where he was going today, but I think the idea that that gay adults can't be Scouts leaders is offensive.
But what about the Human Rights Campaign say he was suggesting that they were represented a threat to the safety and well-being of young people?
Well, I'm not quite sure exactly what he said, but I think if you're saying that gay adults can't be Scout leaders because they can't be that's really offensive. It's disturbing.
Okay. Jennifer, Jeb Bush and his affiliated super PAC have raised about $114 million. You and yours, $65 million. Is it your view and Hillary Clinton's view that Jeb Bush is going to outraise you?
Yes.
Yes, without a doubt.
Yes, without a doubt. Yes, and it's of great concern.
Nothing you can do to catch up?
We think. I mean, these super PACs are going to outraise us, and it is. You have
a super PAC, though.
Yes, but traditionally, the ones on our side just have not done as well on the ones on the Republican side, and that's because that is because that they have they have businesses that have a self-interest in Republicans being elected. So, but I'm sorry, what did you say?
Well, I said, is there lethargy among liberal donors? Are they not worried enough about the Republican threat?
I think that it is. I think they need to be worried. They need to be more worried. People need to be very worried about the Republican super PACs. It is hundreds of millions of dollars. It is undisclosed. It can be, I think I see all sorts of creative ways now being reported on that people think they can spend the money related to campaigns, uncharted territory. I am concerned that people are, Democrats aren't taking it seriously enough, and they should be really worried about this. We are really worried about this. We're going to be outspent. We still think that she can win, but this is a big threat.
Okay, right there. We got some more questions for you. Different category, different topics. Coming up back with Jennifer Palmieri right after this. We're back with Clinton advisor Jennifer Palmieri. We're going to play the role real quick here of CNN follow-up reporter. Hillary Clinton did an interview with CNN. She answered a lot of the questions, or at least a couple she didn't answer. So we wanted to play one of those for you, and then have you answer it.
Okay.
Here you go.
Can you tell me the story of how you decided to delete 33,000 emails and how that deletion was executed?
Well, let's start from the beginning.
All right, so she gave an answer, but she didn't address that. So I just want you to focus on the second part of Breonna Keeler's question, which is, what was the process by which her server got erased?
I'm not sure that was actually the full question that they just showed.
It was the full question.
Really?
It was the full
No, it's fine.
She had a two-part question. She said, how did you decide to do it?
And then
how was it done?
Okay, fine.
So
okay.
just that question, how was the server, what was the process by which it was
The process was by which it was, some of her lawyers looked through all of the emails. They, at the time, it was in the fall of 2014, I think.
I'm not talking about the sorting. I'm saying when she got down to, we have such limited time. We got down to, she said, all right, I'm turning this 30,000 over.
Right.
And these 30,000 don't need to be turned over.
And they looked through all 30,000
right, then what happened
of
to
them
this, physically, what happened to the server?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I mean, the server, I don't know. I think the server, I don't really understand.
You don't know who did the deletion or how they did it?
No, but I know that they went through they went through like the 64,000 emails and divided up the ones they thought were personal.
But you don't know how it was actually deleted?
No, I don't.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about two things you know a lot about in the Clinton campaign, which is relationships and Hillary Clinton.
Okay.
So we're going to ask you something we call 2016 Race Book. You can look up there and see. So there's Hillary Clinton, some people she knows. So just tell us in each case, starting with Senator Sanders, what's the status of her relationship with Senator Sanders, and what's a story you know about them from the recent days that kind of illustrates where things stand between them?
I think they like each other. I think on the campaign trail. No, I think they do. I don't.
So things are good between them.
They seem good between them. I thought they served together in the Senate. I learned today that they did not. I think he came to the Senate after. I think she knew him from the House.
Right. So we heard yesterday, for instance, they had pretty warm interaction at the caucus lunch.
I didn't step inside the room, but I heard it was warm. Yes. Yeah. Right.
And so they're on great terms. All right.
Jennifer, from frenemy to former boss, what is her relationship like these days with President Obama?
That is such a fascinating thing to watch. There's real affection, a lot of respect. They are protective of each other. She thinks that he's accomplished an extraordinary amount. She knows because she watched what her husband went through, how hard it is to do that, and the circumstances under which President Obama achieved so much success was even arguably more so in terms of Republicans' willingness to work with him on things like health care. So she has a tremendous amount of respect for him and thinks he doesn't get enough credit for.
What's up with her and Mr. Trump? She attended at least one of his weddings.
Right.
What is she saying about him these days, beyond what she said in public on occasion?
What she said in public is pretty much what she has said in private.
Oh, I bet she's been more colorful in private.
Not.
What does she think of him?
Not really.
Are they friendly?
Really,
she went to his wedding.
It's not really what we talk about when we're, not.
So how would you characterize their relationship currently?
I don't. I really don't.
You don't know. All right, move on.
What about Jeb Bush? Let's go to the other side of the GOP field.
Yeah, I don't know. They probably know each other. He was in office, I think, for 1 year.
You never heard her talk
President
about Jeb
Clinton.
Bush?
Not. She's very concerned about how much money he's raising. we are all concerned about that, but I don't know. She doesn't really talk about him much.
Yeah. All right, let's focus in on her husband. Obviously, that's a good relationship.
Right.
Some people are surprised that it seems like he helped on the announcement speech a little bit, but he's not fundraising. He's obviously not campaigning yet. So
but he will.
What role is he playing now, though? Does he ever call you up and ask you what's going on?
He
in the
does.
campaign?
He calls me.
What kind of questions does he ask?
These are questions between the.
You can characterize them broadly.
He's
asking about polling, media coverage.
I ask him for advice, right? I mean, he's one of, if not the greatest political strategic mind in the country.
So you can.
Right there at our disposal.
He's your former boss. You've known him a while, but sometimes you'll say, hey, I wonder what Bill Clinton thinks.
I would like to know what President Clinton thinks.
And you just call him up and say,
I arrange. You arrange for these things to happen. But
so what kind of stuff does he weigh in on?
I'm not going to get into
just
that, but
broadly.
he is
strategy.
Well, you won't let me speak.
Go ahead.
Speeches, themes, policy ideas. What do you think voters are thinking about? He just has, it's always, I love it when he's in the room. He's normally one of the last people to speak. I'm always fascinated to hear what he has to say.
So has he been coming to some strategy meetings?
He comes to some, yes.
In the headquarters or where?
No, he hasn't been there.
Yeah, so in the office here in Manhattan?
Uh-huh.
And when he comes, does he act like just one of the people in the group or a little different?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little different. He's, who he is, but it is, he also kind of acts like the candidate's spouse, he's, it's her campaign, but it is, he's this extraordinary resource that we have, and he'll be doing campaigning and
when will that start?
We don't have a timetable. Yeah. We haven't resolved that yet.
All right, I want to ask you about one other thing.
I want to ask
you about one other thing. John Podesta, your friend, you call him Skippy sometimes.
We do.
He said something that got picked up. It was overheard saying something. And then your colleague Nick Merrill put out a statement that said, quote, John admits to thinking that at times the press can be a bit psychotic. Mm-hmm. What does John Podesta mean by that?
I think he means that the press can, there's like some different phenomenons. There's the creation of storylines. You're called up and you're said. An example, I'm picking an old example.
You got to do this in 20 seconds. Sorry.
Tension between Hillary Clinton's campaign and the White House. Completely false, but you have to address it in a story anyway.
And that's psychotic.
It is psychotic to come to, well, I don't know. John throws around psychotic. I don't know what the clinical definition is. But, it's crazy to come to us and, with a fabricated storyline and say, and then leave it to us to have to diffuse it. Right. That's an example.
We got to go to break, Jennifer. Thank you. You'll come back regularly.
Yeah, I live here.
All right. Jennifer Palmieri, thanks. We'll be right back. Our thanks to Jennifer Palmieri, who always is very cooperative, very appreciative, and understands that in politics and political journalism, sometimes a little humor goes a long way. Remember, we're on twice a day at 5 and at 8. Thanks for watching. Another big political day tomorrow. We'll see you then. Until then, for me and for Josh, thanks for watching, and sayonara.